All right. So we are now going to discuss the ISTPs. These are very practical problem solvers. They excel in hands on tasks and troubleshooting. They thrive in dynamic environments where they can use their analytical skills to find immediate solutions. Just in the first three things, what you get is focusing on a task, being a problem solver, but you can't be a problem solver without focusing on a task. With the hyper ability to focus on one task at a time, because they're so logical, they want to make sure they hone in everything moment to moment. They're doing everything in one sequence, and then they move to the next, and then they move to the next. But they're not trying to jump steps. They're not trying to come up with you know anything outside of that. They're trying to be linear. So that is what makes them very good troubleshooters, problem solvers. That's what makes them analytical. Is that they're doing things one at a time, and they don't really want to go forward until they take care of this first. So it's very pragmatic in that regard. Um, they're independent and adaptable. That's that introverted thinking, first of all, in terms of being independent. But what makes them adaptable is that extroverted sensing. They have extroverted sensing as a second function. So they are very present. They like action. They like to be engaged doing things. So even though they, can be thinking and doing things logically, they want to do things that are stimulating. And that's what makes them very adaptable and willing to do different things, try different things. However, their reserved nature and tendency towards impulsivity can sometimes lead to challenges in interpersonal communication and long-term planning. So, once again, intuition is one of their lower functions. So you got to keep that in mind. Long-term planning can be challenging at times. So it's just very important that they have the time to hone in and really have that time to themselves to process everything, dissect everything, so that they are making the best steps moment to moment toward that vision. And they have introverted intuition as a third function, so they actually are do they have that intuition. They want to move toward a certain target. They notice in the environment that unique element, and they're always seeking forward movement. These people are very ambitious as well. So let's take a listen here and see what a ISTP looks like.
Take ownership of your mistakes, take ownership of your shortfalls, take ownership of your problems, and then take ownership of the solutions that will get those problems solved. The X1 was fun to fly.
There we go. Focus on how to solve problems and empowering the person to figure it out themselves. That's what introverted thinking is all about. Empowering yourself to be able to meet the moment and meet the challenge.
That's the way we looked at it, because it's very interesting. So you're doing research flying, you're doing things and solving problems that no one else has ever been able to solve. So it's interesting to see all these things come along.
There's a certain feeling you get when you throw the perfect pass, and I'm sure that's like that in a lot of other careers, but when you're really on and you're nailing it, you just want to repeat it.
I often tell people that you possess the one thing that horses treasure more than anything in the world, and that's peace. You can give them some peace, you can give them comfort, and they'll always be willing to trade you some sort of movement in return for you giving them some peace.
Movement, that's how he's able to read the animal and understand it. And that's extroverted sensing all day. ISTPs are very observational. They have that extroverted sensing. They can see very clearly what's going on. You know what I mean? ISTPs, as we delve deeper into them, ISTPs have a keen ability to analyze and understand how things work, often enjoying hands on activities that involve solving tangible problems. Keyword tangible problems. These are problems that are in the environment, problems that are, hands on issues that we're taking on, tangible things. So, that's a big thing about ISTPs. That's what they spend their time focusing on, is how to affect the environment and affect reality versus, just delving into ideas like idealists can tend to do at times. They're dealing with what is versus what if a lot more. ISTPs tend to be quiet and observant, preferring to listen and gather information before acting. Um, they value independence and autonomy, preferring to work alone in roles where they can make decisions based on their own logic and assessment. So they're very independent, and that's a strength of ISTPs. They are quick to react to immediate challenges and are often resourceful in finding practical solutions on the spot. Um, they're hyper aware, so they're seeing what's going on in the environment, and that's one thing that's special about them. I excuse me. ISTPs have a pragmatic outlook, focusing on what can be done in the present rather than dwelling on abstract or theoretical concepts. So that's kind of what we touched on. And let's take a look at another video, kind of showing a different ISTP. Like I said, it's so awesome to watch these types because, especially if you're an ISTP watching this, you learn through watching, through seeing, through that element more than just hearing. So let's take a look and see what the ISTP looks like.
That don't work. Just sell out. Just sell out.
Just go completely pop.
Right. I mean, so there's an opportunity here after this. If this doesn't work, you know what I'm saying? This is Yellow Wolf. His album is out right now. It's called Love Story. Go buy it. Or illegally download it. Whichever way you can get your hands on it, support the album. You might as well just go get it. Otherwise, I'll come to your house and just hang out with you. And you don't.
Now, I don't know if he's a ISTP Eminem, but what I will say is you see a logical progression of where he's going with the conversation. He brought up something, and he's still talking about that one thing. He hasn't veered off anywhere else. He's still going deeper and deeper into this idea, which is really just a joke, right? He's like, yeah, if, buy the album. If you don't buy it, this is going to happen. But blah, blah, blah. But everything he's saying is related to that one thing. So that's where you can see introverted thinkers can think and sometimes overthink, right? Like that's kind of what it can look like at times.
I don't want that.
For them.
The biggest one is kind of cliched, but just do it. A lot of time is spent thinking about something.
Oh yeah.
And talking about it.
Yeah.
Come on, that's the ISTP wisdom right there. Just do it, right? I mean, was Nike an ISTP like archetype, right? Is the guy that made Nike an ISTP? I don't know, but that's the ISTP way. Just do it. We don't want to talk about it forever. We don't want to come up with all the ideas. Let's just do it.
But when you actually get something down, whether on paper or in code or in front of someone, that's when things start happening. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes. The important thing is that you make decisions and you keep moving forward. But you have to get it out there.
Yeah.
Make decisions and keep moving forward. ISTP language all the way.
I'm just right in the middle of doing this interview and having a chat. You're in a hurry, really? You got somewhere to go? I want to keep you, man. Get to your wedding, buddy. So, she just showed up and was ready to roll. I came out of TV, and she came out of TV, but I think at the end of the day, timing is timing, and once and playing a character authentic is playing a character authentic, no matter what the medium is. And I think the bigger the screen, sometimes the smaller the performance has to be.
LAURN. All right, there you go. His language. I don't know if Ashton Kutcher is an ISTP either, but one thing you can see is the logical consistency in his conversation. Very seemed like he was really thinking more than feeling. There wasn't a lot of feeling being emoted. It seemed like he was very much in his head, very logical.
What's it feel like to have that happening all the time? You're a young person and, there's all this celebrity that keeps you down.
It's like respect. You got to look at it as respect first. People have a lot of respect for my music first before they have a respect for me as a person.
You see him looking around, that's the extroverted sensing. He has this introverted thinking that's saying what he thinks. So it's not a lot of feeling. It's more so logic being explained. But his extroverted sensing is aware, that adaptability is looking at the environment, looking at what's going on, being perceptive. And you get to see both in action and with Snoop Dogg here.
Because you don't know me as a person until you get my music, then meet me. So I feel that when things like that happen, people respect my music and they let me know that rap is here to stay, not to die.
From the depths of the sea, back to the block, Snoop Doggy Dogg, Kobe,
and also to listen to, and certainly you've been asked this before, but where did you get your voice?
It just jumped on one day. No, it's funny, sort of like at 13, it changed like a boy's. Got lower and lower.
Once again, you notice there's not a lot of feeling being emoted. They have a calm reserve that is actually attractive to a lot of people. You know, they have a calm reserve that is a very thinking element. Like, and you can see that with her, right? We see somehow the extroverted feeling types are very emotive, and the introverted feeling types are very bubbly. But you see the introverted thinking types are a little more stoic, a little more logical and kind of removed when it comes to their communication.
My mother has a very similar voice.
I hear stories about Richard Burton went out onto a hilltop and yelled until his voice went down. Same thing with Lauren Bacall. Those are the rumors.
If I did that, I'd have no voice. I wouldn't. I would have no voice.
So you always.
All right. So let's keep going. So we have strengths and weaknesses. So when we talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this type, number one, we're going to start with the strengths, of course, but they're practical and hands-on, which means they're very grounded. You could rely on their perspectives. They're not going to tell you anything outside of what they're seeing, you know, which makes them reliable to a degree when it comes to what they're telling you. You know, they're not going to pull things out of thin air. They're generally looking at the environment and how to positively affect the environment around them. And so, you know, that's big. They're adaptable and flexible. You know what I mean? Once again, that extroverted sensing is always looking for new opportunity. It is willing to embrace uncomfort, you know what I mean, in order to solve the problem. All right. They're analytical, independent, calm under pressure, and they're risk takers. And that's one thing you got to understand. Of all the introverts, they're probably on the highest spectrum of risk taking for all the introverts because they're willing to test the limits. They have that introverted thinking that believes in itself, believes in what it thinks. And when they're confident in themselves and they want to get to a certain target, they're going to have a lot of willpower and a lot of momentum to make that happen. All right, so that's big with ISTPs. In terms of weaknesses, they're very reserved and private. You know, they're not the most social. So a lot of the time they can experience social issues, you know, not really having the environment that they might want or the support or the friend group. You know what I mean? They can be considered insensitive at times. And that's that introverted thinking being first. You know, feeling is their lowest function. So they have a hard time with feeling. You know, in terms of understanding how they feel, most importantly, that's their biggest struggle is understanding how they feel. And then in essence, the less that you understand how you feel, it makes it harder to understand how others feel. Sometimes they can be a little out of touch if they're angry or if they're upset, you know, things like that can happen. They can have a risk of being bored, right? Which connects with being impulsive. So, you know, it's important for them to stay balanced and stay grounded so that they're not getting in risky behavior because they are bored, essentially. They can have difficulty planning ahead, and they have an avoidance of commitment planning. And those both go together. And that really, once again, relates to their intuition being lower. So it's important to value, you know, planning. And the key to that is for you to use that introverted intuition and constantly be planning your next day. Like when we talk about the types that can really benefit from writing down what they're going to do every day, the day before, like, you know, before you go to sleep, you write down what you're going to do the next day to be the most efficient, or any kind of productivity activities that they can do is going to be very helpful for them. Because once you get into a good routine, you're going to feel empowered. And that's what's important. So now what happens when an ISTP is very stressed out? You know, their main functions have been overused. They're exhausted. They're dealing with a lot of stress, anxiety. You know, how do you look at your worst as an ISTP, you know, as an ISTP? And this is good for you to see so that you can monitor yourself and you can be aware of when you find yourself being more stressed or acting out of character. And now you know why. A lot is because you're overworked, you know, and you're going through the grip. So let's show you what the grip looks like when you're caught up in a grip situation.
What? You late again, Smith, and you're fired.
I'm looking for John Laterna.
I can take you.
I don't think so, Smith. Right this way.
Thank you.
Well, you notice he took advantage of the moment. That's very ISTP, right? You know, he saw her in his sensory and his introverted thinking just went with the first thought. could have also been considered impulsive, right? He's sticking his middle finger up.
That rifle ain't mine, right, Jimmy? I don't want to go to jail. Fuck up, Cheddar. I'm fucking serious. I get claustrophobic.
And boom, once he told him shut up, and that's once that could be insensitive, right? That's that extroverted feeling, and that introverted thinking, saying exactly what it thinks, not caring about how the person feels. That's really what's going on. It's not that ISTPs want to be mean on an extroverted feeling level. It's that they don't have enough awareness on taking the time to be nice, because it's not about being mean or nice. They're just saying the first thing that's coming to their mind because that's the truth, right? But sometimes the truth can hurt.
I'm stupid. I know what you're trying to do with our group, bitch.
Cheddar's laying up in the fucking hospital right now, and you guys want to fight about this? So fucking stupid.
To get this.
You see, he's independent. When he noticed that he just wanted to leave the environment, leave the group. He's willing to do that. And once again, that's one of the qualities that give ISTPs a lot of potential to be leaders in the environment, because of that autonomy that they have and that trust in their own vision. Other people begin to trust in it.
Copy. Who the fuck is you, nigga? Hey, where the hell you think you're going?
Going backstage, I'm in the battle.
You can't go backstage.
Man, come on, dog. I got a stamp on my
You
hand,
gotta
man.
go around front.
Man, you just seen me,
I didn't
dog.
see
I just came from
out
the
front, just like
man, you just
everybody else.
fucking seen me. I just went to the battle.
Just like everybody
That's got a fucking problem.
You better shut the fuck up. Straight, dog. You straight.
As you can see, he's getting very agitated, and that extroverted sensing kicks in, that primal, that it's aggressive, you know what I mean? It wants to go forward, it wants to experience whatever it wants to experience. And that introverted thinking locks in. And that's what it looks like, when you try to stop an ISTP from getting to a place that they have a target on moving toward.
It was you? Yeah. Okay, cool, Future. But I think your boy got an attitude problem. Come on, man. You crazy motherfucker. You know they trying to fight bouncers and shit?
This fucking guy's obviously got something against me. I go to the bathroom, I come right back, exactly like he don't even that bullshit.
Hold on, man. You fucking threw up on yourself, huh? Come here, man.
Hey, ready?
I know you ready, Max. Where you go? You girls on the shirt. Let me see. Yo, get the fuck up. What are you doing, man? I'm on this deal time, rabbit. I'm clicking on the map that see put some ass tonight.
Me and Janine just broke up.
What, again?
And I left in the car.
Oh, come on, rabbit. Yo, she said she's pregnant.
That's their sensitive spot. Extroverted feeling is their fourth function. Relationships are a touchy thing for them when they really lock in. So, that's a big thing for ISTPs, is managing those relationships, because they can deal with relationship issues because that extroverted feeling is a fourth function. It's it gets less awareness than the other functions.
She's gonna need the car if she's pregnant.
I'm gonna need a place to crash.
You just stay at your mom's?
Come on. Yo, can I get some fucking privacy here, man?
All right, come on, man. Come on.
Lack of alone time causes stress. And I just want to also say, a lot of people undermine the amount of love and compassion that ISTPs have, and that ISTPs can have for the people that they care about. When they, even though they're introverts and they don't really deal with a lot of people on a very close level, the few people that they hold close are very, very important to them. And so, it's very important to understand that ISTPs, man, they really value those close relationships. And when problems are happening, it really affects them. It really, really gets in their way. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. So now, the functional loops. And this is basically how you end up in these loops. You have your introverted loop that you can end up in that can be very negative, and you have your extroverted loop that can be very negative. So what we want to do is identify these loops, let you know what it looks like, so that when you're experiencing this functional loop, you know what to do to get out of it. All right. And what you'll find is, in order to get out of it, you'll have to let go of continuing to do that same function and shift to the opposite space, and you'll be freed from it. So let's start with the introverted loop that introverted thinkers and ISTPs can get caught into. ISTPs can get caught into a loop where their introverted thinking and introverted intuition makes them stuck. They can only see one target, one way out. That lack of seeing other options, that lack of hearing out other perspectives, it can make them, number one, very stubborn. Number two, it can make them short sighted because they're not getting the big picture, because they're not opening themselves up to other perspectives to get a good view of the big picture. Okay. And it's not factoring in the other ideas. It's just tunnel vision going in one direction. And in the worst cases, it'd be going in a direction that isn't positive or effective, and be unwilling to change and just continue to go in that direction, or continue to take those same actions that are not producing fruit. You know what I mean? And that's where they end up being in a cycle of negativity, a cycle of regression, of not growing. So that stubbornness can keep them stuck. And the only way to get out of that is you got to use your extroverted sensing, see different things, different environments, and you need to use your extroverted feeling and meet different people and talk to different people. You have to factor in what people tell you. You have to value the close people around you and what they're telling you. If you are one of the ISTPs that can tap into what someone's telling you and take that advice and really just be like, you know what, I'm gonna try that. You are going to be so successful because you're already independent. You have the capacity to do amazing things on your own, but you're only as good as the people around you, right? You don't want to end up missing on so many opportunities because you didn't see them, because you were unwilling to see them, because you were stuck in this loop of introverted thinking and introverted intuition. I'm just going in this direction. I'm doing this next. I don't care. No. You got to work with the group, because what you'll realize is, that gives you more power. That gives you more reach. And by being impulsive, you cut off people, you cut off opportunities, and then you isolate yourself. And the more isolated you are, it's less survival, because you survive better when you have more positive and powerful relationships. So that's number one. Now, the other loop that they can fall into when it comes to extroverted negative loops is when they're going through tough times and their inner world is negative, they can try to escape it by going out into the environment and overindulging in their senses. Being around negative situations, being around negative people just to get a rush, just to have an experience. You know what I mean? Just to escape the negativity. Or they might want to engage in and affect someone else negatively. They might want to transfer this negativity back to the person that gave it to them, or put it on someone else. And that's where they can be, they can negatively affect the environment. And that's where they need to channel that in, because first of all, when you affect the environment, once again, it's not survival. You get into negative situations when you do that. When you neglect the environment, that's how people end up in jail. That's how people end up being outcasts, because they don't have the ability to embrace or to value the environment as well. You know what I mean? As themselves. So ISTPs generally are very good in the environment, very positive. They're very caring, but when they're in their worst moments or they're feeling very negative, just don't let yourself be impulsive and indulge in that negative energy. Don't put yourself in a position where you're overindulging in the environment from a place of negativity. Because if you find yourself doing that, it's time for you to regroup, get away, and ground yourself, and tap back into that introverted thinking and that introverted intuition. What am I about to do next? Where do I really want to go? You know what I mean? And once you realign, then you'll be good to go. So that's very important. So now, what is the gift of the ISTP? They have many, many, many gifts. I'm going to tell you one that I think is pretty awesome. Self-determination. Okay, period. ISTPs are probably one of the most self-determined types. So much of their personality and awareness is focused on thinking for themselves, which makes them critical thinkers to a capacity. And it also makes them just very logical thinkers that are going to follow what they believe is the direction they should go. They're not leaning on other people to feel confident. They're very independent in that regard, and that's very special. They are highly determined, willing to figure things out on their own. They have a natural self-trust, that propels them forward, and they are steadfast, diligently working toward their tasks day by day until they reach success. You know what I mean? So that self-determination you have is very unique. Very few types have that, because most types are leaning on others either for thinking or to emotionally feel comfortable. ISTPs, that is really your strength, is that you don't really need the group, in order to do what you think you need to do, which makes you very independent, and it makes you pathfinders. You know what I mean? Like, you guys pave the way, and that self trust is huge. The more that ISTP is determined, the more that they are gonna do whatever it takes within themselves to get to that goal. And they have the introverted intuition third, which is a power function toward the right direction. They have that intuition. They see that light bulb moment. They have those light bulb moments of genius, and that's what makes them so special. And then finally, when it comes to your hidden power, it's resourcefulness. All right, ISTPs are so resourceful. Um, they spent so many years compared to most types at trusting their own thoughts, figuring things out on their own, troubleshooting, following through until they get it, pushing their mind to think for itself. That when they finally really become more and more confident and get more and more knowledge and information, they end up being the types that can make anything happen for themselves without really needing people. And a lot of that is just because they're so determined. They will dig deep to find the solutions. Known as, gifted troubleshooters, they're able to stay calm and look further to find a solution. All right. They're able to use their senses to find opportunities when doors seem to be closed. And that's facts. That extroverted sensing is a powerhouse function. I mean, it just bulldozes through things. And, that's what's very powerful about the ISTP. They're able to use their extroverted sensing, and it really puts them in positions and places. And, they still have that extroverted feeling, so they can communicate. People like them. They're likable. You know what I mean? They don't do too much, but their presence is felt. You know what I mean? And they wait for the right time to make their impact. So they can really be very sociable types, and they really can have a lot of personality. You know what I mean? And then finally, they're focused, often blocking out distractions, doing one task at a time. And that's when it comes to being resourceful, it requires someone being able to block out distractions, someone being willing to say no, somebody being willing to focus on what they need to do next and blocking out everything else. And they're great at that. You know what I mean? And that's the power of being resourceful, is you're looking for opportunities, but you're seizing opportunities. A big part of resourcefulness isn't just finding the things that you need. It's being able to manage the things that you need, and making sure to get the most out of everything that you get. And that's what ISTPs are very powerful at. So I just want to give a shout out to the ISTPs. If you are able to combine your resourcefulness, with your self-determination, you're going to be in a situation where you're a natural leader, where you're able to build an empire, and people are going to rely on you, and you're going to be in very high places because people are going to trust your decision making. People are going to trust your troubleshooting abilities, and people are really going to trust your poise and self-trust. The more confident the ISTP is, the more powerful they are, and they can get to a point where they can be very unstoppable in the world, just a force. So I just want to give a shout out to all the ISTPs. I thank you for listening. If you know an ISTP, look out for them. They're all around you. What's so important with this course is to take these archetypes and then play with your environment. When you go out tomorrow, or think about your friends or family, or when you go out, like, what characteristics do they have? Are they more introverted? Are they more extroverted sensing? I'm pretty sure you know ISTP in your life. So shout out to all of you. And we only got two more left, two more types. So we're going to tap into the ESTJ next. So I will see you in the next module. And thank you all for listening. Peace.